Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about how to add a hitch to your Jeep Grand Cherokee WJ, 1999 to 2004. Not all of them came with them, and this is how you can retrofit. How much does it cost? Well, for me, it cost me about $100, but you can get them ranging anywhere between $65 and $130. And the harness you can either pick up for free from a junkyard if you can get it, or you can buy new on Amazon for about $40. How long is this going to take? Well, for me, it ended up taking 2 days because of a rainstorm. But assuming you have good weather, you can do this in about 2 hours. And then, of course, lastly, we need to talk about what the tools you're going to need. Now, there's not that many tools that you need. You just need a 10mm deep socket, 10mm open-ended wrench or an adjustable, pair of vice grips, T20 torque screwdriver, plastic rivet gun. You'll also need an 18mm socket for the gas tank skid as well. Now, we're going to go ahead and do this now. And remember, I don't have any special skills or any training in this area. If I can do it, so can you. First thing we're going to need to do is remove some of the screws for the trim. You can see that the screw on the bottom, some people have you remove all of them. You just need that one, and then that screw, and then the far one over there, which are those clips on the side. Remove those three, and we can pull that entire plastic piece off. This plastic piece that goes over the top of that actually is just held in with clips. Now, I've had some trouble with some of these clips, and you'll see not just on this one, but on the next one, where the clips sometimes really don't want to come out. All you got to do is just give it a good snap, pull on it, and don't necessarily worry about damaging any part, because the worst that can happen is that the metal clip will just come off and stay inside the body and come off of the plastic trim, which is actually what happens on the bottom piece. But you don't really have to be too gentle about it. Once you've removed that plastic, that screw on the plastic on the bottom there, then you can just slide it out from underneath it, which is why you don't have to remove that entire piece there, and then fight those plastic clips again. Honestly, this is what took me the longest, is getting these plastic clips off. These plastic clips seem to want to fight you every step of the way, but once you get them off and unsnapped, it's actually pretty easy. And you can see it's taking a little bit of effort here to get this off, but you can yank it off, and once you've got that off on the back, then there's some considerations on the front side, or in the passenger behind the drivers, and that is right here. There's no screws that you have to take off, but again, more clips to deal with. So once you take these clips off, and again, it's just a matter of wiggling it out from underneath the trim and giving it a good tug, and you can get that plastic piece off, the plastic trim off. Now, I move that out of the way entirely so I don't have to deal with that anymore. Once that is out of the way, we've got this little rubber shield there. We need to just take that rubber shield off, because behind here is where we're going to be plugging in the hitch harness. Regardless of whether or not you get one from the junkyard or you get a new one, that green clip right there is where you plug in your trailer wiring harness. That little rubber grommet there is how you can fish the wire through it without going through the door like some people have seen online. You can see, you just feed that wire all the way through. Now again, this one is one that I pulled off of a junkyard Jeep. So I've tucked in all of the brains for the lights and how it works for the 7-pin harness there. That's all wrapped up in that foam there. You just plug it into that green clip there, and just do some kind of cable management. You don't have to worry too much about this, because it's going to be covered up by not just that rubber piece that you got to squeeze back in there, and then the plastic piece when that gets put back over there as well. Once you can get that rubber piece in there, again, this just kind of goes to cable management to keep it as neat and tidy as possible, but it's not super critical because it's going to be behind the rubber, behind the carpet, and then behind the plastic trim piece. This is what it looks like without the hitch, and we're going to be putting the hitch into the bumper, not below the bumper, so it will require trimming. First of all, we need to get the bumper off. Those are some plastic rivets that you just need to push out. You can just use a screwdriver or like a punch set and push those out, and that will remove all of those. And then there are bolts as well. Those are the 10 millimeter, and the bolts are on a really long, or the nuts, excuse me, are on a really long bolt, which is why you need the deep. There are also several of these reusable push clips on the bottom and on the back here, and then on each corner there's the T20 Torx screws that go in the corner. So there's one opposite side on the other side there as well. Now once we've got that off, sorry for the view there, but you really gotta kind of finesse this off. There's several clips and several pieces that are underneath, and once you get all of those clips and pieces off, then you can just work it all the way around. I'm actually having a little bit of a tough time on the driver's side, and that's okay. If you have some issues on one side, just move over to the other side, just like I'm doing here. And this one actually comes off really easy. Once you've got the one side going, then you can kind of just walk it all the way around, just like I'm doing here. And I grab a screwdriver just in case, but I actually didn't even need it. And then the whole thing comes off, and you just pull the bumper straight off. Now, mine has some scratches on it, so I didn't particularly care about roughing it up. You can see there on the bottom left there on the tire where that wiring harness pops through. Now here I am unboxing my hitch. Now, I like I said, I bought one online. It was about $100, and it came actually in 3 pieces. It's one of the reasons why I bought this, because it's easier to do for one person. So that's the actual receiver part, and then the 2 side pieces, they're actually 2 separate pieces. That's the trim that I haven't actually put on yet, because it's black, it's cumbersome, and it kind of draws attention to it. Those are all of the bolts. Unfortunately, it came with every bolt, washer, and spacer that was needed on there. And then here's those 2 side pieces that I was talking about. So I can put each side piece on individually, and then I can move the center receiver part into place. It's a lot easier to do with just one person that way. Here's that 18 millimeter socket that I was talking about for the gas tank, because the gas tank skid actually holds up the gas tank, and you're going to need to remove these bolts. Now what I did is I removed only a few, and of course I only did one at a time, and then I put them back in so that my gas tank didn't drop. It's a lot easier to do it that way, so you don't have to worry about the gas tank. And then you just tighten it up. On the driver's side, excuse me, the passenger side here, I'm going to use a little bit of an extension to get around the exhaust. And some of these will take a little bit more strength on it because they probably haven't been touched since the factory. So in terms of tightening these up, it didn't take much strength to undo them, but just tighten them up as tight as you can. And then those bolts there, those 3 bolts on the side, are the actual receiver that goes between the 2 brackets there. Now, once you've got that all done, you just put the bumper right back on, and it's just an assembly in reverse. So I put it back on in the same order that it came off. So I started with the passenger side, and then I went over to the driver's side. Now, the driver's side, that bolt actually has 2 sides to it. It's got the side with the 10 millimeter nut on the inside, and then the coarse thread that screws into the trim. Now on the driver's side, it actually unscrewed from the plastic, so I had to screw it back in. I just had to put the 10 millimeter nut and then just use some vice grips to screw it back on. And then you need to obviously get that nut off so that you can thread it through the hole. So you just use the vice grips on the stem of the bolt, and then your open-ended wrench to remove the nut. And that's a pretty simple process there. When the bolt actually unscrews from the trim piece. Now on the other side, I didn't have to worry about that. It just stayed on there, so all I had to do was just fish it back through. And then you just fish it through just like this, and it'll pop into place. You'll hear it. And you're done. And then you just need to put that nut on the inside on both sides. Those are those reusable push pins that I was showing you coming out before, and they go in there. So there's 4 of them on the top there, and then of course there's the T20 Torx screw that goes on the top right and on the top left. So I'm showing you the passenger side here. Then you use the plastic rivet gun, and this is a really cheap tool that I got at Harbor Freight, but it is an amazing tool. It works really well. I've used this on this vehicle, my former XJ, and my wife's KJ, and it works really well when you're using in tight spaces like this. Now, once you break that off, then you just do the other one, and you've got the other 2 on the outside edge there that you need to do as well, and you've got all of your trim back. Now, the only problem on the underside is that it doesn't quite line up the way that it's supposed to. So, what you have to do on one of them, or what I did, is I just re-drilled one of the holes. I was able to push all of those pins all the way in for 3 of the 4 holes. And I'll show you why it's not quite meeting up, and it's because the hitch is actually right up against the bumper. So the OEM bumper must be just a little bit smaller than this one. This one's a little bit beefier. It has a little bit higher weight capacity on it. And because it's a little bit beefier, it's actually hitting. You can see my finger right here is actually in, I can't get it in between the bumper cover and the metal for the hitch. So that's what's preventing it. So only one of them that I have to do this drilling out on. So I just drilled it out, and I didn't have to drill out super huge, and I was able to just put that clip right back in. This is what it looks like when everything is all said and done. Pretty simple, and like I said, I didn't put the end over it. It's a simple process you can do in just a few hours.